This video is on the context of development that includes parents and the role that parents have on child development. Parenting characteristics can be broken down into two main characteristics: warmth and demandingness. Warmth has to do with how much love a parent shows their child, whether it's conditional or unconditional, and demandingness has to do with the amount of expectations they have for their child. Very frequently this is in the context of rules and setting rules and boundaries and then following through, but it also can be demanding in terms of achievement in other areas like school or sports. And if we consider that some parents are low in warmth while others are high in warmth, and additionally some parents are low in demandingness or high in demandingness, we can create this grid. And using these two characteristics, we can talk about the 4 different parenting styles. The first parenting style is the authoritative parenting style, and these parents are both high in warmth and high in demandingness. What that means is that they have high expectations for their children in terms of setting clearly out the rules for the household and the family, and then following through with discipline or punishment when those rules are broken. But they also love their children unconditionally, so that they engage in that discipline or that punishment with warmth, and they don't make their children feel like just because they're in trouble, it means mommy and daddy doesn't love you anymore. The parents who also have high rule expectations but low warmth are called authoritarian parents. And these are parents who are extraordinarily strict and say things like, because I'm the parent, when children want to know, why is that the rule? Because I said so, because I'm big and you're little, because I'm the parent and you're the kid kind of attitude. These parents also are sometimes low in the warmth that they show, so they often will punish or discipline without love involved in that process. Sometimes kids will then feel like there's conditional love or only a little amount of love in the household to be won, and kids will have to start to fight for that love. This attitude leads children to sometimes feel like parents don't love them when they make a mistake or a bad decision, whereas the authoritative parent, the children always know that they're loved, even if they're in trouble. Parents who have low demandingness but high warmth are called permissive or sometimes indulgent parents. These are the parents that you've probably seen at the grocery store where the kids are throwing a temper tantrum because they want something and the parents give in and give them that candy or that pop just to get them to be quiet. So low demandingness, either there aren't any rules or there are rules but they're not being followed through with. So if the child breaks a rule, there's no punishment or consequence or discipline involved. In these situations, it's the parents who really are being run by the children and not the other way around. And then finally, parents who have low warmth and low demandingness are uninvolved parents. This might be a parent who doesn't really engage a lot with his or her children and doesn't seem to really care what they do, whether they're following the rules or not, and also doesn't show a lot of love. This could border on neglect in an extreme form. Different parenting styles have different outcomes for children. Children of authoritative parents are often highly self-reliant, meaning they don't need other people to do things for them. They're controlled, meaning that they're able to inhibit their behavior or act appropriately when necessary, and they're often very curious. Children of parents who are authoritarian, however, show less social competence. They have an external morality, meaning what they think is right or wrong has more to do with whether they're going to get into trouble as opposed to what they truly think is right. And then they lack curiosity. Children of permissive parents tend to be quite impulsive and immature, even as adults, and they don't have a lot of self-responsibility. They blame others for a lot of their problems or challenges. So which of these 3 sounds like the best for children in terms of the outcomes? Definitely the authoritative parenting, and that's what a majority of research points to. What is it that makes the authoritative style effective? Well, first, children perceive it to be fair. There's an interesting research study that points to the possibility that it doesn't matter how a parent actually parents, it simply matters how the child perceives the parent to be parenting. And if the child perceives things to be fair within the household, they often respond better than if they don't perceive it to be fair. These households with authoritative parenting also have more reinforcement, meaning that children are praised for the good things that they do. They're thanked when they clean up their room. They're told that their parents are proud of them when they do something good at school, as opposed to relying mostly on punishment in an effort to get children to do what you want them to do. Reinforcement is much more powerful in getting behavior changed than the use of punishment, but a lot of times parents end up falling back on punishment instead. Not the authoritative parents, though. They really focus on the reinforcement. Authoritative parents also grant a lot of autonomy for their children. Remember that autonomy is that desire to want to do things for themselves. We talked about this in the context of Erikson's stage between autonomy and shame and doubt, so that the little girl who wants to pour her own orange juice, an authoritative parent is probably more likely to let her do that and support her. So autonomy granting allows children to explore the world, create and develop some of their own independence, and start to be more self-controlled. Authoritative parents also model caring and concern, because even when they're mad at their children, or even when their children have broken the rules, they still love them unconditionally. They still care about them fundamentally. And so children learn that. Remember, modeling comes from social learning theory, the monkey see, monkey do idea. So children will learn how to treat others the way that their parents treat them. And authoritative parents tend to be the warmest towards their children. Authoritative parents also create a protective buffer because they provide an environment where children feel things are fair and children can have some input into the process of how things run at home. They feel safe with their parents and they trust their parents. So if something starts to happen outside of the home or even within the home that creates a lot of stress, authoritative parenting can help protect children from the potential risks of that stress. So for example, if the stress within the family is that the father has lost his job and money has become extremely tight, that creates a lot of stress in the household, and that can put children at risk for things like behavior problems. But if you have authoritative parenting within that same household, you're going to help alleviate the risk of some of those behavior problems because of the way that authoritative parents deal with things. One thing that students often want to know is, well, what if my parents were different? What if one of my parents was permissive and the other one was authoritative? Well, this is the question of, is it better to have parents on the same page, or is it better to have different kinds of parents? There are some people who argue that because children respond extremely well to consistency, that having parents be on the same page and respond the same way to various things in the children's life is helpful to maintain that consistency and that stability. But there are also other people who argue that it actually is a benefit to have one authoritarian parent and one authoritative parent, for example, because children then start to realize that different people in the world function differently, and that someday they might have a boss or a professor or a friend who is authoritarian or permissive or any of the other kinds of interactional styles. And if they know how to navigate those different interactional styles, they're going to have an advantage once they have to start dealing with people in the real world, because they have practice dealing with different kinds of parents. And of course, if you had different kinds of parents, you know that you learned how to manipulate pretty well, because if one parent said no, what did you do? You went to the other parent to ask. And that can be a helpful skill too, being able to manipulate people to get what you want. Of course, it can also be problematic if you do it maliciously.